Hello, you're watching the Technology Magazine show, brought to you by Technology Magazine, AI Magazine, Mobile Magazine, and Data Center Magazine, and of course, us here at BizClik. My name's Neil Perry, and we're here to bring you all the latest news, analysis, and opinions from the world of technology every 2 weeks. Now, of course, I can't do this on my own. It'd be a very long show and quite single-handed as well. So joining me today is one of our editors for AI and technology, George Hopkin. Hello, George. Are you well?
I'm very well, thanks, Neil. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. And I always feel quite like I'm letting the side down when I see your setup, your studio setup. It looks like a backstage picture from your difficult second album.
that would suggest that I had a great first album, though, Neil.
It's a forgotten classic. It's a forgotten classic. And
it
of course, we are also.
It would be prog rock from the 70s. It would definitely be a prog rock epic from the 70s.
I'll make sure.
I'm gonna Google it now.
Is it on eBay somewhere? Must be.
Must be. Yeah.
eBay. Must be somewhere.
I should sign it.
Yeah. Perfect for any Christmas gift. We're also joined by the editor of Mobile and Data Center magazines, Josephine Wallbank. Hi, Jose. How are you?
Hi, Neil. Thanks for having me. I just want to take a moment as well to remind everyone that you can come and say hello by posting in the comment section below on our LinkedIn show here. And we've also got our LinkedIn poll as well that you can vote for.
What is the poll this week, please?
Of course, we wanted to pay homage to the latest news stories, the kind of Twitter storm that's been dominating the news at the moment. So we've all been eagerly watching the events of Elon Musk's Twitter purchase, and it's had more drama than anyone really could have anticipated.
It's the Twitter storm about Twitter, isn't it?
Twitter storm, yeah. So even though the purchase now looks set to continue, Musk looks like he's planning some really big changes for the platform. So could one of which be the introduction of paid Twitter memberships? And with this in mind, we wanted to ask you guys how much you would pay a month to use Twitter, whether that be $20, $8, $99, or you wouldn't pay anything. You would want it free or nothing.
Yeah, so how much you'd pay for that blue tick? That's a great question, actually. I'm looking forward to seeing the answer of that. So we'll find out what everyone says later on. But don't forget, we're also going to have a bit of fun with Tech That Takes You Back, where George and Jose will be competing to see who has the oldest and weirdest bit of technology from the past. And yes, we do share a script for this. And I have seen there are links for what these bits of tech are. And I've managed not to look at them. And I'm quite proud of myself. It is the grown-up equivalent of not searching for your Christmas presents. So I'm terribly proud of myself. But anyway, first, let's have a rundown of the latest technology, AI, mobile, and data center news. Who are we going to start with? Let's start with George. After you, sir. Kick us off. What's the latest from AI Magazine?
Let's bring you the latest from AI Magazine, and this has been one of my stories this week. And if it's not a feel-good story, it's a feel-better story. Researchers in Scotland have developed a new technique which compares a database of images from patients with pneumonia, tuberculosis, and COVID. And those images are then passed through an algorithm to arrive at diagnosis for those patients that are turning up in emergency rooms today. No doctors required. Hospitals are under stress around the world, of course, and this could prove crucial for busy medical teams. That's what the experts say. And it's all the more important because it's, in the Northern Hemisphere, at least, we're about to go into the winter of discontent. I hope we're going to come back to this story because it's always good to see tech and AI being used at the front line for good reasons. And this is one of those good reasons.
Absolutely, definitely a feel-better story. I like the sound of that. And what do you have to share from the latest edition of Technology Magazine?
So in Technology Magazine, another one of my stories. But I kind of hope we don't have to come back to this one in the future because US government agencies are using artificial intelligence to track nuclear materials and make sure nobody is cooking up a nuclear bomb somewhere. I'll say it again, cooking up a nuclear bomb somewhere. And I'm not using the word cooking.
I was going to say, you've just ruined the plot for every action film that's going to be produced in the next 20 years. Where are the new plots going to come from?
I'll happily come up with another plot. Give me 5 minutes, I'll come up with another plot. For now, I'm happy to ruin all those other plots. And the researchers, the experts that are cooking up this plot here are using the word cooking quite accurately because synthesizing nuclear materials can be seen as something like baking cookies, says the lead researcher. Two people can use the same recipe and they can end up with different looking cookies, says Elizabeth Juras, who is the lead in this research. And she says it's the same with nuclear materials. I don't think it is. Cookies and nuclear weapons or potential nuclear weapons, not quite the same as cookies, but we're not going to accept these cookies, are we?
No, I don't think we are. Okay, Jose, well, can you beat radioactive cookies? What highlights have you got to share?
Well, it's one from data centers I'm starting with this week. I wanted to share a story from Meta, who have obviously, the giants in the data center industry are the ones that will by necessity be producing the having the greatest impact on our sustainability. But actually, the work of companies like Meta are really, they're achieving some fantastic initiatives. And one of the latest in Meta's recent series of testing is it has started operating its data center halls at 90 degrees. And this all comes as part of its goal to work towards water positive status by 2030. So Meta's revealed that it's now going to be running its data center servers in a significantly warmer and drier environment. So this will achieve a dramatic reduction in the volume of energy and water that its sites consume. And then when you multiply this across its vast digital infrastructure across the world, it's going to, achieve some remarkable figures, hopefully in the very near future. Then alongside this, Meta has also dropped its humidity levels down in the server rooms to just 13%. So millions of gallons of water are going to be saved every year from this new initiative.
And you'd imagine what Meta do, an awful lot of people will pay close attention to. So I doubt they'll be the only people doing that. So what else have you got for us from Mobile Magazine, please?
Cool. So I wanted to share, we have just released our latest edition of Mobile Magazine, Mobile November. So I wanted to share one of our headline feature stories with you. 5G has been a key enabler of advancements in sustainable transport, helping companies across the world to achieve the envisioned ecosystem of all electric autonomous vehicles. And with the advanced capabilities of the 5G network, manufacturers of smart vehicles are able to better meet global demand and evolve the technological solutions being deployed in their vehicles across the entire world. So we wanted to delve a little bit deeper and explore the advancements that 5G is bringing to smart vehicle technologies, and then take it one step further and see how these features will take us closer to realizing supply chain 4.0. Given the latest news stories and the kind of instability of the last few years within supply chains, it's really interesting to see how 5G through smart vehicles is going to help us build greater resilience to these ongoing changes.
Okay, well, just a reminder to everyone to make sure you do drop into the comments if you want to have a chat with us and comment any of the stories we're discussing, and make sure you do take part in our poll as well, because I've got a strong opinion on that. I don't know about you two, about how much you'd pay to be on Twitter. So we'll get onto that in just a minute, but also after the break. Oh, hang on. We'll hold back on that for a sec. Hold your horses. George, Jose, they'll be going head to head in Tech Takes You Back. That's just in a couple of minutes.
Welcome to day one of Tech Live London, the Future of Technology conference.
Race strategy is a key and important element of winning races.
We give the ability to onboard marketplace partners and provide that connected seller experience.
We have started to see more and more impacts to the industrial environments over the last year.
You have done X, Y, and Z to prove yourself ready. You've got ABC experience. Yes, you are ready.
there's some tremendous folks here that are attending this conference, and they are extremely knowledgeable.
There's a really good turnout. It's great to see.
I've met some great people here who've asked some very pertinent questions.
This is our first time to Tech Live. It's been great to be a part of it today.
It's talking to people who are here, in person and online, that makes the difference.
Okay, welcome back. We're going to get onto the results of the poll in just a second, but if you want to take a closer look at any of the stories we discussed in part 1 of the show, they're all in the comments, so you can go directly to them there. So the poll, let's have a look at that. We were talking about how much we would pay to get that infamous blue tick on your Twitter account. How much would you pay for that? Joyce, how did the poll end up? What were the results?
I'm just loading that up now. Sorry, it's just coming on my screen now. Here we go. Thank you. So,
live.
It's always the way with tech shows. So it's really interesting, actually. By far and away, which I don't know about you guys, but it's reflective of my opinion on this. 84% of you guys said that you wouldn't pay anything. That 84% said that they would want it completely free. Then the next most popular was the next cheapest option, and 12% said $8. Then we had 2% saying $20, but interesting, 3% said $99. So there was some small scope for that higher end bracket. So yeah, a very interesting one. I think it's seems very interesting to think that to see whether or not Musk's kind of proposed changes do actually go ahead, realistically speaking.
I don't think the results of that poll are massively surprising. I expected, I think, everybody to be going for the zero, because there's a fundamental question here, and that is, how much are you going to pay for freedom of expression? But that's an odd question to ask, really. And I think a lot of this is business related more than anything. I absolutely accept that there are people who would pay $99 a month, marketing people all day long, if they could justify it as a marketing channel. But what happens then is that the World Wide Web that we always wanted becomes a marketplace full of those little stickers on lampposts with the phone numbers where you have to tear it off and go home and phone for your guitar lessons and whatnot. So yeah, this is where we are there. So I can well imagine spending more than that. Zero is absolutely the answer. What does everybody else think?
I'll let you go first on this, Joyce.
It's an interesting one. I don't necessarily. I think that the value of Twitter with the purchase from Elon Musk has really, really come under scrutiny, and the kind of high proportion of fake accounts has been really put into the spotlight. So I'd find it very difficult to justify, even from a marketing perspective, paying anything for a Twitter presence. I think very few companies have established a very strong, profitable Twitter account. And I think LinkedIn has really taken over in terms of from a company perspective. And Instagram and TikTok for younger users and Facebook for older users. So it's kind of Twitter's losing, in my opinion, I think Twitter's losing its niche a bit. So it'll be interesting to see.
If I could just add a point there, the take up for paid for services on LinkedIn is, from memory, 36%. It's certainly the early 30s, mid 30s. If 30% of Twitter users paid $8 a month, Musk would be absolutely coining it in. But Twitter is not LinkedIn, thankfully. But what is Twitter? What is Twitter for? Is it the global village square? And if so, should it be commercialized in this way? And who does it belong to? These are great questions. They're not being answered very well, I don't think, but there we go.
I think the way I'd approach it from two ways. The first way I look at it is a lot of the discussion about actually charging is the suggestion that it could actually make it better quality if you use this money to root out all of the fake accounts and that kind of thing. You have to ask the question, well, is the improvement in the service, is the improvement in the experience enough to justify your $8, your $20 or whatever? That's something I'm yet to be convinced about, because for me, the way I use Twitter, and I guess it's a fairly selfish transaction, because you almost think about it how you use it. A business uses it in a different way to a politician uses it. An artist uses it in a different way to a business. Everyone uses it in their own way. And you think, well, do fake accounts influence how I use Twitter? For me, no, not at all. It doesn't really affect me. So I know that's a very selfish way of looking at it, but I'm sure that's how everyone. It's a bit like whenever they suggest they're going to make cuts at to a broadcaster. For example, the BBC. If people say, right, we're going to make cuts there, if it doesn't affect the bit of that organisation that you use, a lot of people aren't that fussed. If it does affect the bit of the organisation you do use, then it's the worst thing in the world. So then that'd be where I'd start with one side of the debate. The other side would be, you think, well, if when it was first set up, you were told this is going to cost you $8 a month, $20 a month, would it be the absolute behemoth that it is now? Would it have become, how many different social sites have come and gone? How many great ideas have been out there and you're going to be charged for this? And they've disappeared. They've disappeared under the feet of, it takes a lot for any social media platform to gain genuine traction. So would it have worked at that time? I think that's a very good question, and it's almost becoming quite fashionable. You can see it seems to be a different celebrity every day who's coming out and saying, "Well, I'm off now. I'm not going to use Twitter." It's going to be an ongoing thing.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think I'd almost see I'd see a more viable way of them generating revenue to be either doing what Snapchat did and creating a kind of premium tier for users, or
I made a switch. Sorry, go ahead.
No, and adding more sponsored content and paid for advertising, because we're very comfortable now with that being present across YouTube and Instagram and TikTok and the like. So it's you think that would be a kind of easier middle ground solution?
Maybe, but he doesn't tend to take the middle ground, does he? He tends to
not notoriously, no.
Take it all to bits and start again. If you do have any comments on this, do pop them in the bar at the side as well. But I don't know. Will the backlash be big enough to stop it happening? That's the key question. Even with the layoffs that have been going on there, will that be enough to make it a financially viable company? I've seen a lot of discussion about people saying, well, where are all these staff? What have they been doing? What projects have they been working on? We've lost George briefly. I'm sure he'll rejoin in a moment. But I don't know. Would you pay for it, Jose? Would you, if it was a choice of having it or not having it, and you had to pay $8 a month, would you pay for it?
I would not. I would not pay for it. I know in some spheres, I know in the political sphere, Twitter does have a lot of value. So I have friends that work in that kind of industry and they would pay for it, I think, because, it's, they use it a lot. But professionally, I think LinkedIn just has a lot more value for me. So I would pay to use LinkedIn, but I wouldn't Twitter. But again, from a Gen Z perspective, that could be totally different from another.
It's all about
a Gen X perspective, perhaps, that I might give. Go back. So Musk is making a lot of changes here, isn't he? He's laid off half the workforce as well. And we were saying about celebrities making the move from Twitter to other places. Some of them are moving to a thing called Mastodon, which is a open source, self-hosted version communications platform. If people were trying to charge $8 a month for that, it's never going to happen. Just as Twitter would never have taken off at $8 a month 15 years ago. And Twitter might die a death in the next 2 or 3 years by trying to insist on $8 a month. That's absolutely possible in the future. $8 a month is a very cheap amount of money if you want to pretend to be somebody and then use that trust to leverage something in real life. If you were to pretend to be a Z-list celebrity and then go out and do various nefarious things in that celebrity's name, $8 is pretty cheap, isn't it? So this is where, the trust element there, it might weed some people out. It might absolutely make sure that people are real on that platform until they're not real, until they are just 10,000 clones of people you don't even know, but they're out there using that fake identity to do wrong things in the real world. I think this is where we're going with that, possibly.
Yeah, and that is a whole other discussion. I think the only way we can solve this is get Twitter and MySpace to go for a drink at some point and just see what they say at the end of that. There we go. That's one for the kids, isn't it? Bring it all back. Just don't go looking for my old MySpace profile. The pictures would not be good. Anyway, it is the time we've all been waiting for. You can remove yourself from the front of your seat, the edge of your seat, live from London. It is time for tech that takes you back. Did you like the fact I referenced MySpace before going into tech that takes you back? It's almost like I planned this. It's almost as if there was a plan. Anyway.
You're a professional.
Professional what? That is the question. So, right. Just to explain how this works, you two have spent your entire working week not doing anything else, researching. It's true. I get the data. You are producing a short clip each for me of some tech that takes you back, and I have to judge. I don't know what metrics I'm judging, but I have to judge which one I like the best. So I will leave it. I'll leave it to you.
So who's going first then? Who's going to present first?
Let's go, ladies first.
Cool. I chose a. I was kind of inspired by the video itself that I saw when I was doing my research for this. My colleague that sits next to me recommended it as a Palm Pilot. It's an absolute, I'm sure the video is coming. We've got Ernie in the background bringing it up. But until then, so the Palm Pilot was the icon of its day, and I think it's really inspired what we now expect our smartphones to deliver. There's some fantastic videos on YouTube of young people trying to engage with a Palm Pilot, trying to figure it out.
Where's the touchscreen?
I went for a BlackBerry last time I was on the show, and it's kind of like the if you imagine the the little evolution illustration, I feel like the Palm Pilot's the one down. But I think it's fantastic tool. Fantastic for its time, and I think it's a real kind of hallmark of what was to come, and it will continue to be. Here we go. Thank you, Ernie. Over next few years, I think it's these kind of components. I think will just continue getting more sophisticated as well, which is interesting.
I love these videos. I love these videos.
Teenagers trying to use a Palm Pilot, which is.
They do make you feel old, because it doesn't feel that long. Oh God, I'm feeling old now. So let's.
This is why I think these videos are so compelling, because there's something for everybody, Neil. I mean, we look at this and we go, look at the young people unable to look at this that we saw as cutting edge, and young people look at it and go, "What the hell is that calculator?"
Yeah.
I did guess it was a calculator as well. It's one of them predicted.
Now this is a very, very 90s looking advert. On the left.
It is.
Oh, it's wonderful, isn't it? So...
Yeah, that was clearly the future. Absolutely the future. Didn't Pierce Brosnan use one of those in one of the Bond films whilst going down some kind of pipeline? I seem to remember. So that's my useless pub quiz knowledge.
I'm sure that
that definitely takes me back.
Palm Pilot product placement.
I think it was.
Yeah.
Okay, that's one. Okay, and there we go.
Oh wow, that last frame had all the Palm Pilots. Wow, that was total sort of like going back in time. That bit there.
Wow. That was very 1996. Okay, Well,
Is
George,
mine coming up next?
It should be. If not, there's a third person here who hasn't told us they're coming.
Okay, so I anticipate mine coming up next. I wonder if producer Ernie can bring up the audio on this one, or is he deliberately keeping the audio off so I've got to sing over it?
In a world of fun and fantasy and ever-changing views and computer terminology, Commodore is news. Are you keeping up with the Commodore? 'Cause the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up with the Commodore? 'Cause the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up? 'Cause the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up? 'Cause the Commodore is keeping up with you. In a world of high technology and ever-changing moods, in a world that's full of make-believe and changing attitudes, are you keeping up with the Commodore? 'Cause the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up with the Commodore? 'Cause the Commodore is keeping up with you.
So that was exciting. I don't know if you got the same experience that I got.
That's the most 80s thing I've ever. That's so 80s. It's nearly.
It's a stereotype of everything 80s. That.
I am pleased you saw that because because this is live TV, I actually froze. So as long as you got the full experience of that, then that's excellent.
We absolutely got. Well, I think the fact that we were frozen on the end of that suggests that we did get the full experience of a proper 80s advertising jingle where everything had to be sung. I have two key questions. One,
I have many answers. Go ahead.
Who thought that was a good idea? Everyone doing
Australia.
That. Was it Australian? Australian
That's
one.
an Australian ad.
And also, if you're going to pay someone to dive into a swimming pool, maybe someone who can actually dive.
Instead of belly flop.
It wasn't. Was that the first take? Did they only have time to do one take of that? Have I missed the point? I've missed the point.
I have watched that video back a few times, and yes, the belly flop in the pool is awesome. The fact that they all have different ways of doing a nod of a salute is great. I've actually paused it to see what the text is on the menu on there, and it's fascinating reading. But that was the Commodore SX64. And it didn't do very well, unfortunately. Some of the reasons why it did do very well was the small screen. It was 5 inches. Hang on a second, and I did check. You'd have to get an iPhone 5. It was color. They did do a black and white one that didn't get launched because you did the color one first, and then you do the black and white one afterwards. Of course, you do that. But yeah, it was a 5-inch screen. Most phones are bigger than that these days, of course. But it weighed 10.5 kilograms. Neil, how much does your dog weigh? I'll bet it's about 10 kilograms.
Now, hang on. Is this what I tell the vet, or is this what I tell the insurance company? No, that's no. He's about that. He's about that, and I'm really surprised he hasn't come to join us today. He normally does sort of appear or make his presence felt, shouting at a shadow or oxygen or something.
Well, the next time he comes on, let's weigh him. 10 kilograms is what a Commodore SX64 was, which is about the same as a mountain bike, or if you don't have a dog, a big bag of dog food. So I don't know why you'd be getting the dog food if you didn't have a dog, but there you go. It didn't have Microsoft Word, it didn't have Teams or anything like that, and also it had poor marketing. That's one of the reasons that was put down for it not being a success, poor marketing. When you see the advert, though, that we've just seen, I thought that was awesome. That was terrific, that advert.
I can imagine the meeting where they all sat down and planned that and all came away thinking...
Every single one of them said that.
We have nailed this. Let's all go to the pub now. Fantastic. Well, the thing is, I have to pick a winner from that. And I don't know, I'm approaching it from two angles. One, I am mercifully too young to remember the Commodore, was it X64?
SX64. SX64.
I am mercifully young enough not to remember that, and I don't get to use that expression too often now. I definitely remember the Palm Pilot because I decided that was obviously the future when I saw someone using it. But I'm going to have to go with you, George. I'm afraid you have won that purely on the strength of the all-sung jingle. And Jose, I do apologise, but I'd like to think you'd agree.
Stunning advert, absolutely.
That's very kind of you. I also like the Palm Pilot. I really do. I'm a big fan of the Farm Pilot. That's what I am. A big fan of that Palm Pilot. I've got the lyrics.
Could have gone worse.
It could have gone worse. I could have done some very, very rude words there, but I didn't. I've got the lyrics here for that advert. I'm going to share it with everybody after. In fact, let's share the lyrics in the show notes, because I think people should learn these lyrics and use them in the workplace.
Yeah, years from now, school children should study them. They really should. Well, that is the end of Tech That Takes You Back, and that is all we've got time for this episode. We do hope you've enjoyed the show, and make sure you join it again in 2 weeks' time. In between now and then, rewatch that advert. I'm sure it's on YouTube. Just keep rewatching it. Let's give it a spike. Let's make it the new Rickroll, because it is a thing of absolute 80s perfection. So thank you for joining in with the polls. That was fantastic. And do remember, this show is available to watch on demand. So do please share it with any colleagues, anyone interested in technology, and anyone interested in absolutely outstanding 80s advertising. So thank you, George. Thank you, Jose. And thanks to producer Ernie and the rest of the video production team as well. This has been a BizClik production. We'll see you next time.